Okay, good. I'm fantastic. I'm fabulous. Thank you.
Great. I saw you've made some edits to the documents. So thank you for that, adding in some links and stuff. That's fantastic.
And I'm sorry I had forgotten about that, and I was in a panic this morning trying to find it. It's been sitting on my desk for a while, and I couldn't find it. Wow, where the hell? And I went, I know where it is. It's in LinkedIn. Of course it is.
Of course it is. I think we should be fine. Let's just soldier on ahead.
I'm in your capable hands.
Thank you.
Hold on. Of course I closed that.
Of course I did.
Of course I did. It's just, yep. Thank God this is a podcast and not a video cast.
Yeah. Well, this does go out on video too, but I chop off all the beginning bit. Don't worry.
So you're going to get to make fun of me at my expense. I love it.
So every single guest episode I have, it begins with an outtake. And there's always something that happens. So the last episode, the episode I released yesterday, she was in there was an alarm going off in the background. And I'm like, I don't want you to be caught in a fire. That would be bad.
Yeah, you say that, right?
You road guy, you.
I've had a wild time, I got to tell you. It's just, well, you've been in the business how long now?
A good 9 months.
There are no rules.
A good 9 months.
There are no rules, but, be clean, be fair, finish the job, be safe. But other than that, the only rule, Rosie, is get it done.
That's been a really interesting shift for me because I've come from quite strict rules in, fintech, dealing with banks, having very clear delineations and boundaries. So yeah, this is it's quite liberating.
Excellent.
Righty ho. Shall we get on into it?
Yep. Let's go. Giddy up.
Okay.
It's my first Texas.
Yes. I know we could be here a while with you, particularly on this first question, because it's your area of expertise. But what does recruitment and career mean to you?
Well, I'm going to talk about recruitment because my career has been in recruitment. It's been 35 years now. And so when I talk about recruitment or recruiting, I'm talking about the process of going through an entire market. There are a lot of companies that will run an ad for a couple of weeks and talk to people. There are very few, there are a couple more that will actually call around. There are very few organizations or headhunters that will actually, market map an entire market and go after absolutely everybody that's standing, period. And beyond a couple of clients, that's why we try to, we've actually made sure for the last 35 years, we've never robbed Paul to pay Peter. So we've never gone back to a client, unless they've been acquired. That's a different story. And taken someone out and putting them somewhere else. So that's why we specify by city a couple of clients, because we go after absolutely everybody. Regardless of whether they're looking, and if you read some of the articles, there's one there where we talk about, this guy that I had to call 51 times. I left 51 voicemails. Sorry, I left 50 voicemails. I can't exaggerate. I left 50 voicemails because on the 51st time in his rented Mercedes on the Autobahn, he picked up and it was me. And he put, instead of hanging up, he said, "Well, what do you want?" And we had the conversation finally. And we actually recruited him, and he came to Ottawa for a change, and took one of our companies public. Anyway, sorry, I digress. That's what I mean by recruitment. You owe your clients absolutely 100% of all your effort to make sure that you've uncovered every single rock, to make sure that you've got not just the technical skills, but the fit with the organization. Because, there's nothing worse than bringing the wrong person into an organization that, the company can write a check and the person's gone, but you've destroyed somebody's career.
Yeah.
If you get it wrong with the candidate. And, I had that happen on my very first search 35 years ago. Never got over it.
Yeah.
the guy and I are friends. But I hired him into a company to work for 2 VPs, and they were like salt and pepper, right?
Right.
And he got along with the main VP, who literally 3 weeks after he got there moved to another part of the country and left him with the other VP, and they oil and water. And the VP called me up and said, it's not working. So I want you to replace him. And I said, okay, I'll do that. But I want to talk to Alex first. So I'm going to be the one to pick up the phone call and talk to Alex. And I'm going to find you a replacement, but he's going to stay in that job until I find his replacement and I find him something else to do, another opportunity. And so they agreed. This was 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And it took me 6 months, and it was a grind from day one to get it done. But there was an awful lot at stake. I think if I hadn't been successful in doing that, I would have gotten out of the business on my first search.
Right.
If I hadn't been able to fix that.
I think it's such an important story to share because there's a complete misconception externally if you're not doing recruitment day in and day out around just how many moving parts there are and just how invested you are in trying to support these people in their career and find the right fit for the company, because amazing things happen when you have great people together. Alternatively, terrible impacts on individuals and their career trajectory if you get it wrong.
Yeah, we've had we have a lot of case studies where we've come into companies where they were, dead last in their industry. We put together a new team, but a new team, and we've taken probably 5 now in the last 35 years, 5 companies from worst to first, and some of them in record time, like 14 months was the shortest one. But we took this emergency 911 company from dead last globally, dead last to number 1 recognition, number 1, and they weren't number 1 in revenue, but they were number 1 in recognition, and number 1 didn't like that, so they bought them. So it was worst to first and into acquisition.
And then acquisition.
It was a 3.8x acquisition, the highest multiple the industry had seen at the time.
Wow.
So that's a good story. So when you put the right team together, as you said, magic happens. It's amazing what you can do.
Absolutely part of what's been the attraction for me, and understanding that. And in a market like New Zealand, which is quite small.
You'll love it.
Yeah, no, I am loving it.
I get to use box of fluffy ducks and a bunch of my other New Zealand expressions. We actually worked for Jade.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In Christchurch. We actually worked for Jade for 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Both in Canada and the UK. And we did some stuff. I want to say Sir Alex, but I can't remember. It's got to be 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah, right.
In Christchurch, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful part of the country. So what do you think separates a great recruiter from one that isn't?
Process.
Right.
Process. And it's and when that sounds so simple.
No, it makes total sense.
It does make total sense, and it's not simple.
Yeah.
And more these days, it's process, because I think you need to be able to educate a client about what you're about to go through and what they're about to go through with you, to make sure that you have fully vetted the company, the opportunity, that it fits with everybody. And if you don't have a process, and we've got a 6-stage, 14-step process. Everybody's got a X number of steps.
Yeah.
We call ours the inside out approach. It's on our website. Anybody can download it and see it. It's been written about in Hiring Greatness, and it's been written about in Executive Recruiting for Dummies. So it's not like it's a secret.
Yes.
But it's a process.
But you've got to follow it.
You got to follow it. And it's so funny. We have so many clients that, our first-time clients, will send them the book, and we'll be doing something. They'll go, oh, I read about that a couple of weeks ago. That's on this such and such a page. And I just laugh. Yep, it is.
That's right.
So it's good to have a process. And when we first wrote this book, I had a good friend of mine who we hired for the Dummies group. They wanted someone to oversee my stuff, an industry veteran. So I had to find somebody older than me. And they exist. And they had to say whether this was, going to work or wasn't going to work. So they were the soothsayers. And he said at the end of he actually got out of the industry when we published the book. He said, you've told everybody exactly
everything,
how to do it.
Yeah.
And I said, yes. He said, well, they don't need us anymore. I said, wrong.
Yeah.
You look at you've been in the business, Rosie, now long enough to realize that, when you're doing this 24/7, and it's not 24/7, but it is 24/7, 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of experience doing this, whereas your clients, this may be something that they do on a part-time basis. I mean, even a CEO doing a search or a VP of sales doing a search, they've got a regular 60-hour work week. And put an extra 60 hours into doing this? No. They just want to make sure that you're following a process and that you can be held accountable. So that's why we did the book, and that's why I say process, because that's the most important thing. Clients don't want to do it. They just want to know that you're going to do it. And if you don't, you're going to be held accountable.
I think that leads just really nicely into the next question as well, because in a country like New Zealand, there is a lot of word of mouth, particularly small or startups. I've seen some posts from small and medium businesses that think, with the world becoming a smaller place and these networks increasing, that formal recruitment is maybe not as valuable as it once was. So aside from process, what else would you say to that? Because I've got my own thoughts about the impacts that has in their organization when they're not focused on their own core business, but I'd love to hear from you.
So it's absolutely true. It's not as valuable. Recruitment isn't as valuable as it used to be. Absolutely. It's 5 times more valuable.
More valuable.
You know why? Because in the old days, your listeners will go, "Oh my God, this guy's really old." I'm really old. Back in the days, most people won't even know what a punch card is.
Yeah.
But back in the day,
I know.
3-inch by 7-inch card, and you'd write the name of the company and all, and that's how you follow them. So if you wanted to find somebody, if you wanted to recruit somebody, you went to the yellow pages. What are those? Okay, here we go again. Or you went to the research librarian. I love these women. I brought them chocolates every year. I spent a fortune on these librarians. I hired a couple of them over the years. So all the internet has done is made it easier to find everyone. Almost everyone, right? Probably 85% of the world. Well, just because you can find them and hire them doesn't mean you can keep them, Rosie.
Absolutely.
Because as a recruiter, I know the 5 or 6 things that you as an employer are probably not doing, although you promised to do it in the heat of battle when you were courting them and making all these promises, and then
wooing them well.
Exactly. Now you're an employee. Well, welcome to the rest of the world. I know what those things are. So, now I can find them much faster. Thank you very much. And I can reach them much more quickly. So small companies, they can find anybody they want to. Doesn't mean they can keep them. Doesn't mean they can attract them either. We're just winding up a search now, 330 VPs of marketing in the SaaS space.
Yeah,
okay?
Right.
It took us 2 weeks, took 3 researchers 2 weeks to find all these people. And they had to have taken the company from 0 to at least 50 million. They had to have been through 2 different levels of growth. They had to have between, at least 2 companies behind them in terms of experience. So probably, 5 to 7 years. We found them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 30 hottest people on the planet. And it was a real chore for our client to understand, let alone step up to the fact that, they had an interesting product and we positioned it really well and they answered good questions. But, they fell flat several times because they didn't realize they really had to sell to get in the door. And what people don't understand about recruiters is really good recruiters are simply conduits.
Yes.
We are trusted resources that bring people and companies together and make them happen. But if the company is not doing their part by, explaining why they're great people to work with or why they're sexy, well, it's predictable, right?
It is.
They stay where they are because they don't have to move.
Yeah, great people. Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I think it's such an important point. Great people have a lot of options and organizations need to be able to step up their game and be an employer brand of choice. Yeah.
And everybody talks about it, but being an employer brand of choice does not mean free lunches, a beer fridge, a pool table, a pong table. That's not what being an employer of choice is. Being an employer of choice is more along the lines of you've got great leadership, Industry 4.0 leaders who are set on building a team correctly and getting the best people to work together and have interesting projects to work on. And most don't. So our job gets easier and easier.
I think also for me, it's and a number of great individuals I've spoken to, it's around an organization and that leadership, seeing, valuing, empowering, and growing that person. And if they feel that valued, then it can be very difficult for them to be wooed by others.
Well, yeah. I mean, more and more, whether it's technology talent or just talent, period, more and more people are like, professional athletes.
Yes.
They're competing against themselves. They're competing against themselves daily to be better. And if there's no way to, if you've gone to some company and there's no way to increase your value by becoming better, they're not going to stay. They're going to move on to the next one. God forbid, when I got out of university, like too many decades ago, you took a job that you knew you were going to, 4 decades ago, you were going to keep this job for life.
Right.
If you had 3 jobs by the time you're 65, 45 years in the role, if you had 3 jobs or more, you were a job hopper.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have, a new job every 3 years, people are wondering, what's wrong with you? Does nobody want you?
Yeah.
Talk about a change.
Complete transformation and shift of mindset.
Massive. Yeah. Massive.
Yeah. Agree. Moving on to some candidates now. So one of your top 12 recommendations for job hunters is do the thinking for the employer. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, and this is so do you know who Dick Bowles was, the author of What Color Is Your Parachute?
No.
It's a fabulous book.
Great.
Unfortunately, Dick passed away a couple of years ago. He was in his 90s.
Right.
He's the reason I got into the business. But it's called What Color Is Your Parachute? And we had this argument continuously since about 2004 when I released my first book. His whole philosophy was on, put yourself on a resume, put yourself out there, and people will figure out what to do with you.
No.
Maybe when he wrote I used to tease him. I said,
join the dots for everybody.
Yes, Dick, when you wrote this in 1968, yes, it was fabulous. But now you have to do the thinking for the employer. And what that means is you have to stop making people figure out what to do with you.
Yes.
And how you're going to add value. You need to do your homework. We coined this phrase a couple of years ago. I call it networking with the newly departed.
Yes.
It's not dead people. It's networking with the newly departed. And what I mean by that is most people try to network their way into a company. If they have a top 10 list, they try to network their way into a company and they don't get very far. Because if you're trying to network your way into a company, even if they're hiring, very few people are going to put themselves on the line or put themselves out there to help you get an interview. So stop doing that. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but stop. What you need to do is network with the newly departed. And what that means is you have to go and find people that used to work at that company in the department that you want to work in and call them up. I mean, you can Google this, right? If you want to work in marketing for Google, you go marketing, Google, the minus sign and resume and minus sign and apply. And it'll bring you back all the resumes of Google will actually bring you back all the resumes of everyone that was ever in marketing in Google or Pepsi or whoever you put in, right? So you find someone that used to work there, 3, 6, 9 months ago, and you pull up their resume because it's right there on the internet. And you look at their phone number and you go, Rosie, David Perry, I noticed you used to work at Google in marketing. Can I ask you a couple of quick questions? Well, what's this all about? Well, I'm doing some research on Google in the marketing department. I know you used to work there. If you got a few minutes, either no or yes. Most people say yes. And then you say, well, what's it like? There's a whole series of questions you can ask.
Yeah.
The reason you do this is because then you actually understand what the issues are in that department, in that company that you want to work with. So you may find at the end of a conversation, and I got to do 2 or 3 of these if this is what happens, you may find that the company is not someone you want to work with. You may find that the boss is a schmuck, right? But wouldn't you rather know they're a schmuck than waste 5 weeks trying to get an interview only to go, oh my God, this guy's a schmuck 3 minutes into the conversation? Of course you would, right? So you have to do the thinking for the employer. And if you do that kind of networking, then when you finally reach out, however you reach out, and there's all kinds of ways to do it, you already know that they have an issue that you can solve.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it's no longer give me an interview, give me a job. It's you got a problem I can solve. Let's go have a coffee and talk about this. I don't have a job. That's fine. You have a problem, and I know this is a problem, and it's worth fixing. I can fix it for you. If you don't give me a job, that's fine. But I know you have this problem, so let's go fix it. And the psychology of reciprocity comes into effect when that kind of stuff happens. But that's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
Do your homework and stop making the employer figure out what it is that they can do with you. Do it for them.
I absolutely, it's the advocation I make to all candidates and mentees. Just make things simple for the people that you're trying to communicate with. They have a very short window of time to assess. Make it as simple as possible. So,
I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Please do.
Appropriate that. I can do it. There isn't a question you can throw at me that I can't.
That you can't. This is true.
I play, in all seriousness, Rosie, I have a $50 bill I've had for 15 years now. I take it with me whenever I'm speaking.
Right.
Because these talks are always an hour and a bit, and I always say, okay, you're having a break. But for those of you who are staying, we're playing Stump the Recruiter. And I explain, if you can ask me a question that I can't answer, I'll give you $50.
You get $50.
And I go, this is a U.S. dollar. It's not a Canadian. It's green, not red. This is real money. I have never given away the money. Ever.
I love it.
I actually had a woman, a young lady, about 23. I'm in San Francisco giving a talk at a college.
Yeah.
And she stands up. She got a bunch of professors around her, teachers around her, and she stands up and said, well, I'm a convicted felon. How am I going to get a job? And I said, okay, well, you're out. So you didn't kill anybody, right? No. I said, okay. So you got any interest? She said, yeah, I got lots. I said, okay, so find a couple of associations or places around town that could use your skills and go and volunteer. She said, well, what good will that do me? And I said, well, volunteer there for 6 or 9 months. And when you go to get a job and someone says you're a convicted felon, you can go through the whole conversation, but you're going to have all these people who are at this association or whatever it is you've been volunteering at, standing behind you going, no, she's a really good employee. Forget what happened in the past. She didn't kill anybody, whatever. And she looks at me, she turns to the professors, and they go, yeah, that'll work. So that was the closest I ever came to losing my $50. That's it.
I love that.
Back to your question.
So can you share examples of guerrilla job search tactics that worked in a job search?
Yes, I got thousands. The most. Oh, seriously, we do.
Yeah.
We've been running these boot camps for more than a decade. So one of the best job search tactics that anybody can use, and it may seem a little bit corny, but just a little corny. All right, you know what chainmail, or you know what chainmail is? Okay, so we have this tactic that people use on the second Friday when they join one of our boot camps. Okay. It's called the email chain letter. Now, you have to go back to the first day. The first couple of days that you're in this boot camp, you're honing your target. You're picking your top 10 companies you want to work for. You're starting to do your research, and you've done that. And you're not applying to anything because we don't let you, right? I mean, you won't have time. You're working 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And you get to this Friday, and you get this special email from us that says, here's your first assignment for Friday morning. People just groan. So what it is it's an email chain letter. You've made your top 10 list, right? You know who you want to work for. You've already built your resume. You know what your accomplishments are. So you write a letter, and you write an email, and it says, if I send it to Rosie, it says, Rosie, it's David. We've known each other for, 10 years.
Yes.
And, I've just recently left ABC Company, and I've been given a lot of thought about what I want to do next. My accomplishments are boom, 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 3 of them. And, below, are the 10 companies I want to work for because I know I can add value. So would you mind reading that list? And if you know anybody, Rosie, can you call me? And if you know anybody that knows anybody that works there or worked there, can you call me? And by the way, would you mind when you're finished, even if you don't know anybody, and especially if you don't know anybody, can you forward this list on to 10 of your friends, just 10 of your friends? And P.S., if you don't do this, nothing bad's going to happen. Nobody likes chain mail, but nothing bad's going to happen, I swear. Well, I've had my own kids do this, right? My daughter, I'm standing in line, I'm getting on a Delta flight in Detroit. Oh, it's got to be 10 years ago now, maybe 12. Yeah. And so employment was horrible. I've been down to Detroit to talk to 800 engineers about, what they were doing wrong. And it was a long conversation, 800 people in the room. And my vibrator my phone goes off, and I got a BlackBerry. My phone goes off, and it's my daughter, and she says, "Dad, I need help." I said, "With what?" She said, I got to give a presentation on Friday about how I'm going to get a job for the summer as an intern. I said, like, which Friday? Next Friday? No, it's Wednesday.
Right.
I said, 2 days from now. I said, okay, here's what you do. You do a targeted Facebook ad campaign. And she knew what that was because she'd seen me do this with people. And you do an email chain letter. I get on the plane, and of course, I'm going from Detroit to Ottawa, so naturally, I land in Pittsburgh, right? That's a direct flight, straight east and then north.
Right.
Anyway, geography doesn't mean anything to you, but it was an extra 900 miles for nothing, right?
Right.
But anyway, I land in Philadelphia. My phone goes off again. She says, "Okay, the Facebook ad's set up and the email chain letter's set up. I just need your credit card and your PIN number so I can pay for it." I said, "Fine, no more than $10 for Facebook." I give her that stuff. I get on the plane. I land in Ottawa, and she said, "It goes off again." I said, "What is it?" She said, "It worked." I said, "What worked?" She said, "The chain mail letter email." I said, "Bullshit." I said, "It's been like an hour and 3/4." She said, "No, Dad, it worked. I have an interview on Saturday." So here's what happened. And this is the math, right? She had a targeted list of 10 companies she wanted to work for. She had 10 friends that she sent it out to. On the second or third iteration, so you send it to 10 friends, and they send it to 10 friends, and they send it to 10 friends. You go from 100, you go from 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000, like really fast, right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yep. I got an interview Saturday morning with Canada World Youth." And she'd been trying to get into Canada World Youth for like 3 years, and they wouldn't even interview her, right?
Right.
So a friend of hers. A classmate's best friend's father happened to work for these people in Toronto. So her best friend sent it to her friend, and she read it and went down the hall and talked to her dad.
Dad, yeah.
I'll interview her, right? And so Saturday morning, she has this interview, and she gives her presentation on Friday, and the teacher said, I won't tell you what he said. He was going to give her an F, but he didn't. He gave her an A in the end. She has her interview on Saturday, and the following Monday, not the next one, but the one after that, she's flying to the Ukraine for 6 months on an internship.
Amazing.
So that's the chain letter email. And I've had so many. I have a couple of friends. Like at this time of year, I've been in the business so long. I have the kids of the people that I placed.
Right.
Years ago.
Yeah.
How you don't know me, but my dad is the son of so.
Yeah.
So what do you want? So I'm helping these people all the time. And in this one case, I'd known this girl she's 14, and I was 55 at the time. And she calls me up. She's now in her 40s. She's got 3 kids, and she says, "My dad says I got to talk to you." And I and her dad are best friends. I said, "What's up?" And she told me, and I said, "Okay, well, you're a marketing executive. What do you mean you can't find a job?" She said, "Well, no one's hiring. Nothing's happening." And she's a phenomenal marketing resource. So I said, "Kate, I tell you what, I'll put you in the boot camp, but you have to talk to me every Wednesday at 10 for an hour. I'm your coach. I won't charge you a thing, but I'm your coach, and you have to show up." And she said, "Fine." And she was quite resistant. Anyway, we get on this thing, and we get to the end, to Wednesday, and her voice sounds different. The second week in the Wednesday, and I said, "What's up?" She said, "Well, I said, "Oh, you're talking about Friday, the email chain letter." She said, "Yeah, that's just so." I said, "Kate," she said, "No, I know. I'm ready. I got my top 10. I have taken your letter that's in the book, and I'm going to use it verbatim, just changing what I have to, and I'll pull the trigger on that. Well, Friday morning about 10:30, she calls me and she said, you'll never guess what. I said, you decided not to do it. I have to fire you. She said, no, I pulled the trigger. 2 hours ago, she said, I have 4 interviews next week. And the first one is on a Thursday, the following week, with her her number one on the list.
Right.
So she went in the interview. They weren't hiring. They hired her. They made an opportunity just for her.
Yeah.
And she was there, I think, 6 years. It was an advertising firm of all things.
Right.
And she always wanted to work at this particular advertising firm. So she got a job there, and she worked there for, I guess it was about 6 years before she went on to do something else. So this stuff works, whether you're a CEO or a student or anything in between. It works so long as you can pick your top 10 companies and you've got 10 friends. Don't send it to 11. Don't send it to 100. You're just going to be annoying. That's spam.
Yeah.
This is cute otherwise. So that's one that's produced more first interviews than anything else we've ever done, including the Starbucks coffee cup caper. More first interviews than anything else we've ever done. Just email chain letter.
Well, I think that's a great example then of how that can work. Exactly. It costs you nothing but a little bit of time, a little bit of thought. So you are incredibly passionate about recruitment and this end-to-end process. What's changed most with the industry? We've talked about value and obviously people being able to be found, but what do you think has changed most in your time?
Probably the fact that recruiting is now as much a one-to-one marketing exercise.
Right, yes.
After you've done all the research, it's a one-to-one marketing exercise as much as it's an assessment exercise. And I don't know if you have children, but Dr. Seuss used to have this goat, the double-headed goat, the push me, pull me.
Yes.
It's a push me, pull me. And you've got to be really cognizant of the fact that you're selling and buying at the same time on both ends. And if the candidate doesn't understand that, or the client doesn't understand that, you have to explain it. Otherwise, they're going to miss each other. So there's a lot of prep work that goes into, we used to prep candidates before job interviews. I don't worry about candidates anymore. I haven't for decades, right? Because I will recruit the right candidate. I'm more concerned with the client, tripping up. We had a situation, just a couple of weeks ago. When Anita and I work on an assignment with a client, we normally do all the Zoom calls or we do all the face-to-face interviews, including those with the clients.
Yeah. And
this one particular client who we've had for a long time said, no, we're fine on our own. They have an executive board. And I said, you've already paid for this. And anyway, long story short, they said, fine, just write the questions for us. I spent 7 or 8 hours one day writing out the questions, scripting this for the board so they would get it right. And it started off with a bang. And then the first guy asked the right question. The next board member asked the right question on the list. And then number 3 just decides to freeball it. Well, Humpty Dumpty. We couldn't have put that thing back together again for love or money.
Right.
The candidate, essentially said about the 4th person asking their an interview question, they said, you really haven't got a clue why you need this. This is a VP of HR. You really haven't got a clue why you need this position other than to solve your immediate problems. You don't understand, even at a board executive level.
Yeah.
You don't understand that what you're trying to do may be groundbreaking and really interesting, but you need the best people in North America to do this, if not the world in this particular case. I said, you don't get that. So we're never going to be able to hire these people. I'm out. This is 20 minutes into a 2 to 3 hour interview. She says, I'm out unless you can tell me right now why I should sit through this. And they were just stunned. No one had ever done that to them. No one had ever said, candidates, most employers still believe job seekers, job hunters are supplicants. They come hat in hand. Please give me a job. No, that hasn't been the case for me forever, but probably for at least 2 or 3 years. The best and the brightest, they don't lack for something to do. They're not looking for a change. They have, 50 people just like you and I call them every month, if not every week, to tempt them with something. And if they handle themselves correctly, they'll go out every now and then just to see what the marketplace looks like.
Yeah.
But you as a company better have your ducks all lined up. And of course, I heard about it the next day from a slightly alarmed chairman of the board. And anyway, so I said, well, I wrote that stuff. Next time, we'll either be there or you're going to stick to the script.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Right. I've done my job getting the best people in front of you, and that takes effort. So please don't screw it up.
Yep. And if I'll stop there.
Okay.
For that comment anyway. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it does. It does. So you advocate selling money at a discount, which is an intriguing thought process. How does that work, and why would a job hunter do that?
Well, let me ask you, and I've done this many times in presentations. I will hold up a $20 bill.
Yeah.
Canadian, US, doesn't matter, and I'll start the bidding. Who'll give me $1? And people are sort of,
like,
but eventually I'll give you $1. Who'll give me $2? And I'll go through it until I get to they won't give me any more money for this $20 bill.
Yeah.
Right. And the last time I did this, I was at a college somewhere, and someone said, "Well, I'll give you $5." I said, "Fine. We're going to go all the way to 20, but I haven't got time for this. So here you go. Give me the $5." He gave me the $5. Here's the 20. He said, "What's the catch?" I said, "There's no catch. You've just made the entire presentation for me. You were willing to give me $5 because the 20 is worth 4 times as much as you just paid." It's the same thing for job hunters. Employers want to know 3 things. Can you make me money? Can you save me money? Can you increase my efficiency? Why? Because they want to stay in business. So you can sell money at a discount, or in another way of framing it, you could be a blue chip commodity.
Yeah.
If you can prove that you're going to bring more value, you're going to make them more money, or you're going to save them more money, then they're going to spend on hiring you. So if you're a $50,000 a year, fill in the blank, and you're saving someone $200,000 or more a year, that's a pretty easy hire to make.
It's a good return on investment. Absolutely.
Yep. If you can articulate your ROI, and this isn't just for salespeople.
Yes, of course.
It's for administration. I mean, I don't know the bank and I don't know the country, but there was a perfect example of this about 15 years ago. One of the banks put together a contest for their tellers and everybody else in the bank to try and save them money. And they decided that whatever money that your investment or your innovation saved them, they would give you half of the savings for the first year.
Right.
Well, some teller somewhere got a couple $1,000,000 because she figured out a way to take a deposit slip and a withdrawal slip and put it on the same piece of paper.
Wow.
Wow. Simple, right?
It's like simplistic. It's so beautiful in its simplicity.
But it was $1 million+
$2 million, yeah.
And again, this goes back to doing the job for the employer.
Yes.
Figure out where you're going to add value by doing your research and figuring out in your own terms, how do they think?
But I think also understanding the business to that level, right? So being able to have leadership that is open to those ideas that was sitting there right under their nose from one of their own, and not often enough do organizations really take the best from their talent by investigating internally.
No, and that's the irony, right? Because
yes.
Companies spend billions of dollars every year sending people away for leadership training.
Yes.
And then they come back, they're all full of, vim and vigor. And then the first thing they hear is, no, we don't do it that way. That's not the way we do it here. Yeah. So, save your money. Anyway, that's how you become a blue chip, a commodity, or that's how you do that.
Fantastic.
Sell money at a discount.
Why did you start writing books, and what's the biggest lesson you've learned from your sharing?
That's a good question. So I started writing books because I live in Quebec, Canada,
Yeah.
which is the French side of Canada. Canada has two official languages, French and English.
Mm-hmm.
My kids were going to English school here, and they had one piece of equipment on the playground because English education is not as well funded as French education by a factor of about 20. They had one piece of equipment on the playground. It was a culvert. You know what a culvert is? It's made out of cement. It's a big round thing. It's like a toilet paper roll.
Oh, yeah,
It's made out of cement, and 6 feet wide or whatever they want to make it. That's all they had. They had this thing to run through. The school had been open. You can't make this shit up. Sorry about that. You can bleep me later.
No, it's fine.
They had been open for 46 years.
Right.
And that's the only piece of
Wow.
Sorry, no, I'm exaggerating. Sorry. They had a pole on the other side that had a basket in it with 3 holes. So you could throw a ball up and it could go out one of the 3 holes. Sorry. They had
Canadian Quidditch.
Exactly, right? So my goal in writing the book was to raise money to build English-speaking schools in Quebec. Simple as that. I figured if I wrote a book on how to get a job, because Nortel and JDS had just done a massive downsizing, and collectively the cities around Ottawa had about a 65 to 68% unemployment rate among techies. It was pretty bad. So I wrote this book, and we sold it online. I mean, this goes back to 2003. We sold it online for $40 US. And make a long story short, we actually got the money to build the schools, not from selling the book.
Yeah.
Because what happened was we had a change in the election, and we convinced the new premier that it was worth his time and effort to put money into English education. That's a whole other story. There's a medal behind me on the wall there from the Queen for doing that, but that's another story.
Amazing.
So I took the book called The Headhunter's Guide to the New Economy, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I flogged it around New York for about a month and found a buyer. And that's how I became an author. I wrote the book to raise the money, and then when they bought the book, I needed someone to write a foreword. So I wrote J. Conrad Levinson, the father of Guerrilla Marketing. And I said, "Hey Jay, I've read all your books. And I love your stuff. I've written a book. Would you mind reading it?" And he email, right? In the old days. He types me back and he says, "Yeah, sure." So I sent it. You could hear the 14.4 baud modem, this big loud thing, trying to push this book through the internet at the time. It was screaming like a cat you just stomped on for about 20 minutes before it went through. And about 2 weeks later, he calls me and he says, "I read the book. I gave it to my daughter, Amy. She got a job with it. What else would you like?"
So it's great. We will write the forward.
And I said, "Will you write the forward?" He says, "Sure." And so he did. And when he finished writing the forward, I sent an email to this guy called Seth Godin. I don't know if you know who Seth Godin is.
I have heard the name, yes.
Yeah, one of the most famous marketers in the world.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, Seth, just wrote this book. Jay wrote the foreword. Would you mind writing a cover quote?" And he said, "Sure." So I went from Jay to Seth Godin. Then I got Guy Kawasaki, who had launched the Mac.
Yes.
He wanted to be on the back cover. And then I got Stephen Covey and Brian Tracy, and that's how I ended up being an author. And then I'm in Toronto to meet Jay for the first time, and I bring him a copy of the book that he'd written the foreword to. I gave it to him, autographed it, and I gave it to him. I was all thrilled to do that. And I jokingly said, "Hey, we should do guerrilla marketing for job hunters. Rosie, be very careful when you make a suggestion."
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for, Dave.
Exactly. So that's how I ended up becoming an author and a writer.
I love that the organic but squiggly path of that, and the initial intent, and where it's ended up being with the success of so many books and the impact of so many people. So amazing work, David.
Never saw it coming. Saw it coming.
What career failure, we've talked a lot about your success. So what career failure or challenge has really impacted you the most, and how did you pivot from that or overcome?
So that's an easy one to answer. In 2008, I had a massive stroke.
Right.
It left me unable to walk, talk, read, or write.
Yeah.
And a bunch of my two of my competitors in this town somehow found out about it and ran around town telling everybody I was brain dead. Now, technically, they were right, like for 10 days anyway. On the 5th day, I started to be able to speak again. But that was the pivotal moment. I came back, called my clients. I've been out for 10 days. Called my clients, told them I had the stroke. And, I love these folks and they love me. And, they thought it was in my best interest to, give me some time off.
Yeah.
So they canceled all their projects.
Right.
Except for 2. Right. And, that had a massive impact.
Of course.
Because I'm the guy that goes and gets the deals and brings them in. Sometimes I work on them too. Kidding. I always work on them. So I got lucky. Rosie, it's pure luck. I had done an interview with Sarah Needleman at the Wall Street Journal about, I don't know, November of the previous year, 2007. And she didn't know I had a stroke. Mm-hmm. And in October of 2008, they finally released the piece. And she phones me to tell me that they're releasing the piece and apologize for having taken so long. I still don't tell her I've had a stroke. I don't tell my editor I've had a stroke. And she said, but no one believed your story. Like, have you read the stuff from the Wall Street Journal where they call me the rogue recruiter? No one believed those stories. Yeah. So she ended up doing 90 plus background fact checks. Because her editor at the time thought I was just full of it. Yeah. Right? Total hokum. And they did all that and found out it was all true. And so they released the article, and it was on the front page of the business section of the Wall Street Journal. And the next morning, I got calls from Los Angeles. I got calls from Tokyo. I got calls from London, England, all over the world. And I just went completely vertical. What I did was I kept the 2 clients I had in Ottawa.
Yes.
Because I had to finish that work, and we did. And then I just said, forget it. And we went completely international. After that, it was New York, Chicago, Boston, LA, London, England, Romania, Tokyo. Abu Dhabi, all over the place. Yeah. And it was that article. And that article led to getting a phone call, I don't know, about a month later from this young girl, Jia Yang, who had just graduated NYU in journalism. And she's got her first assignment to write either a 300 or a 500 word article for Fortune magazine. And she had noticed that I had written this book and I knew a little bit about recruiting. Could she ask me for, some creative suggestions? Well, she, was not old enough that when I said, have you got a tape recorder? She said, no, I can write this really quickly. I said, no, just turn the tape recorder on. She asked me like 3 questions. I talked for probably 2 hours. I won't do that to you. You're too smart. And when I finished, I said, here's 10 people will tell you that I'm a flaming wingnut. That's their opinion of me. And here's 10 people that'll tell you that, no, this works. So I hear nothing until it was either April or May of 2009. So I don't know, 5 months later, the article comes out. Only it's not 300 words. It's not 500 words. It's the cover story. And it's 10 pages. And it's got a photo spread. And away we go. So, and I point this out because this stuff comes right out of the blue, right?
Yes, it does.
For anybody who's just been sacked, it came right out of the blue, you got to understand, and I believe this completely, that when this stuff happens, you just got to get in there and do everything you can, because there's just as much good stuff. And I know it sounds left-leaning, tree-hugging, but it's not. It's like you throw good boomerangs out.
Absolutely. You put the good work in, it will come back somewhere. That's always what I've believed. In unusual ways quite often, but it will come back. Well, there was an absolutely perfect example. So that was my pivot moment. We went completely international. Now we're back in Ottawa. We're still doing international work. Yeah. But there was an orange-headed president in the States who really didn't have much for immigrants, including anybody from Canada doing work in the States. So we pulled back the state 4 years ago. And so right now the city of Ottawa is going through a transformation construction-wise that
the last time I saw this was downtown Toronto 30 years ago. So yeah, I'm right in the thick of it now. Construction, real estate, and tech. We live this every day.
I think it's
backyard.
Yeah, it's such a great piece with regards to resilience, but also a note to those who might be struggling to stay positive in that job hunt right now. So I think, yeah, it's a great share. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's so easy to do.
Well, it's easy to do because you've already had an extraordinary career, but I've no doubt that you still have so much more to come. So what is the legacy that you would like others to remember you for?
Okay, so I had to think about that for about a sub-second, and then I had to decide, am I actually going to tell you? And then I said, yeah, because that's what I do.
Yes.
So, so my departing comment, I'm writing 2 books right now. I'm writing Guerrilla Marketing Job Hunters 4.0, and I'm also writing Revolutions Need Leaders. Let's put the 2 books aside. Mm-hmm. What I intend to do before I die, which hopefully is a long time from now, yes. Is I want to teach the world to fish. And what I mean by that, mm-hmm. You're nodding your head. What I mean by that is rather than give somebody a job or show them how to get a job or find a job for them, I want to show them how to do it themselves. It doesn't mean they're going to always have to. And it doesn't mean I'm against recruiters, because I'm certainly not. I'm in that space. But even on the recruiter side, there are things that candidates should do when a recruiter calls. There's a couple of questions that they should ask right away. Absolutely. That if they did, they'd save themselves a lot of time and heartache, and potential heartache. So that's my job. I've got this my new job hunt website up now, and we're about to launch a free job board called workinsight.io in the next couple of weeks, and it will compete with all the big job boards, but it will be free for both candidates looking for a job, and it'll be free for everybody in my industry. So, I watched Monster Board and Career Builder and even LinkedIn build their businesses on the backs of the recruitment industry, and then totally tank us on purpose, or try to. We are a resilient lot. We really are.
Oh, yeah.
So this stuff is going up for free, and it'll be free, forever and ever.
We're seeing a bit of that happen in the New Zealand and Australian space at the moment with some of those advertising spaces. And I think in terms of what you said with candidates and being prepared and having the right questions, it just helps to raise the bar for everybody, for candidates, for employers, for recruiters, to have better conversations, to get to the objectives of what people really want, to stop dancing around with too many words and not enough substance, so that we can really help them. And I think being able to share that communication and let people show their true selves is where we're getting to, but still a little way to go.
Yep. And when I pull this off, I suspect there will be millions of people finally in the right jobs. No, I won't have done it directly, but I will have helped indirectly. And when that happens, all of a sudden, when people have got a job they love, and they're making the type of money they need to have a productive life, all of a sudden they have that ability to start to focus on some of the other stuff that they overlooked. Global warming, for example, becomes a big one. Yes. There's a whole host of stuff that we as society, as people who live on this planet, this is my left leaning coming out, right? But you can hear Kumbaya behind me, but seriously.
I'm about it. Keep singing.
But if you help people get a job that they love, you can count on them to help others and to help be part of the solution to all the problems we currently have. So that's my end game. That's my end game, and I've been driving towards this now for a good solid 20 years. The next book, Revolutions Need Leaders, I intend to unveil in a speech at Davos within the next 4 years.
Right.
I'll pick a couple of projects and I'll tell them how we did these projects and pull this global stuff off.
Yeah.
And guerrilla marketing for job hunters, by the time I'm finished writing this thing, will be free or almost free, and on the desktops of every single person that wants to read it in the world, so they can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And an educated consumer,
Yes.
an educated consumer, both for us, for both a client and a candidate standpoint. Wow, that's what we want, right?
Like I said, raising the bar. It just absolutely.
So the kumbaya is off now.
No, I think it's a fantastic vision, and one that does require support, because when space is filled with unnecessary concern, such as not being able to earn enough, not being in the right job, not thriving with a collaborative group of people, we can't go out and do those other parts of our lives to our top level of focus. So being able to support people is a noble and worthy cause.
I was born to have fun.
Absolutely.
Born to have fun.
We forget to have fun. That's one of the reasons I love e-scooters. I will be on an e-scooter in heels with my laptop bag and my handbag, and I'm like zooming through the city of Auckland. I love it, and it brings me joy. And I think we forget to have joy, and we just don't have enough of it. So anything we can do to get the professional done and dusted so we can get out to some joy and worthy causes, fantastic.
Excellent.
I'm going to round that off with anything else you'd like to share or last words to leave us with.
So my best piece of advice for job hunters is create that top 10 list of companies.
Right.
Do that self-reflection now, whatever age you're at, right? I have 4 adult children, and I've said to them all, I said, I don't care how long you stay at home, how many times you come back, figure out what it is you want to do, or what you were put on this earth to do, or what you think you were put on this earth to do. And then go after it now, rather than getting to the age of 40 or 50 or 60 and going, oh my God, my life could have been, well, no, it's a waste. So do it now. So part and parcel of that is picking your top 10 list of companies you want to work for that are going to use your skills, and then going after them, whether they have an opening or not. Find the person who's got the problem you can solve.
Yes.
And then, a lot of people are down and out. My advice to down and out people has been the same for the last, 40 years. I got a worse story than you got, but that's not, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, why don't you go and volunteer somewhere? Soup kitchen, homeless kitchen, whatever, and understand just how absolutely not bad most of your life is.
Get some perspective.
And you're in total, like the future's in your hands, right? Literally, I sign my books that way. The future's in your hands. It's a play on words, but it absolutely is. You're totally in control of this stuff. And, if people want to see what a real job search system looks like, they can go and take a look at mynewjobhunt.com. That's the boot camp that we ran 214 people through this at $5,000 a head 4 or 5 years ago. And then we took all that money and put it into building an online site that does the same thing at 1/100th of the cost.
Yeah.
So if you want to see what an actual job search looks like, you can go and see that. Because most people, you may or may not know this, but most people in North America spend 48 minutes a day job hunting. That's an actual statistic. And that's why it takes, sometimes 40 weeks to find a new job. Well, if you take the 40 weeks times the 5 days, and by 45 minutes, it comes out to 146 hours and some odd minutes. And if you take the 146 hours and divide that by 8 hours, it comes out to approximately 3.5 weeks. So you've heard this, and I'm sure you've said it to your candidates before. When you're looking for work, looking for work is a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely.
But most people spend 45 minutes.
Yes.
I don't know any job. Because if
you can spend 45 minutes a day.
Right? So you got to put in the 8 hours, and the hard part for most people is not knowing what to do and in what sequence. And that's why we put My New Job Hunt.
That's going to be so useful for so many people, David. That's amazing. Yeah. It's been such an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I feel like I have recruitment royalty on the show. And
you are.
It's all true. I'm really honored about your reach out and taking a listen to this lady from little old New Zealand putting out, really my heart and soul around recruitment and career. And I think similarly for very similar reasons, because I want to make a positive impact and reach out to people as well as I can do, and share the insights of amazing humans like yourself. So thank you for that, David.
We're going to be helped. Just keep doing it. Well, some of our best friends just moved back to New Zealand, and they're either in Christchurch or they're in Auckland. So can I say hello to...
Please, absolutely.
Clark?
Yeah, and if they are in Auckland, I'd love to catch up.
Great people.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure, as I say.